Dear listeners, today we're going to hear a story about treacherous cheating. It all started like in a fairy tale. I could not even believe that I could be so happy the first meeting. Romantic dates. In general, everything turned out fine. At first, there was a fear that this could not continue, but over time, confidence in a happy future only increased. And soon I have already discarded all prejudices. Everything is fine with me. I am happy. 2 years later, we were already living together. There were some savings. I also got a new position at work, so I sold my one-room apartment and bought a two-room apartment in a new house. There was money for repairs. Therefore, we settled in our paradise pretty soon. Both worked. There was enough money to live on. It turned out to save further. Of course, relationships have become more ordinary, but I have always tried to bring romantic notes into our lives, and she spoiled me with pleasant surprises. And everything was fine until that ill-fated August when I had to leave for a business trip. Then for the first time, I felt something was wrong. Before what happened in August, I would like to talk about our communication with friends. Our circle of friends was not large, but we saw each other quite often and talked very frankly. There were no forbidden or uncomfortable topics. Evening with friends were loud and fun. There was one feature that I never really paid attention to. My girlfriend's best friend, Lena, was very fond of me. But this was never clearly manifested. Everyone understood everything, and number one claimed anything. Personally, I had no feelings for her except for friendship. After a while, Lena began to behave a little strangely. There was some tension in the company. I repeatedly asked her what happened. But Lena asked me not to pay attention. She said that she was very tired at work, periodically quarreled with her parents because of her personal life. Since they had not yet seen her son-in-law. In general, it reduced everything to the fact that there was nothing to worry about. And we continue to communicate further without raising this topic again. On August 15th, in the evening, I was packing my things. In the morning I had to go on a business trip. No signs of trouble. My nastier helped me get ready, but she kept saying that she didn't want me to leave. And everyone reassured her that it was only for a couple of months, and we would communicate via video chat. Morning came. Nastia made coffee. I started to dress. We said goodbye, kiss her, and I got into a taxi. Of course, I did not want to leave, but it was necessary. Work is work. Upon arrival in another city, he settled in an apartment rented by the company, settled down and gradually began to take up work duties. The first week went by quickly. We talked with Nastia every evening. Friends came to her a couple of times, and we seemed to be all together in the same room as before. It was fun, and this helped me not to miss home, and my beloved so much. After some time, some incomprehensible events began. Nastia was getting colder and colder every day. She was always busy with something. She did not communicate willingly. She was nervous. I began to worry. Tried to find out the reason, but could not figure it out. I tried to discard bad thoughts. I could not even imagine her betrayal because we love each other so much. Everyone thought that everything would work out. It's just a difficult period, long-distance relationships, and all that. And after a month, everything really worked out. On Thursday evening, she called me, told me how much she missed and how much she loved. Apologize for what had been happening lately. Everything boiled down to the fact that the distance between us had affected her so much. We talked for half the night, although the next day was quite difficult for me. There was a lot of work. But I did not regret anything because again, I felt a pleasant reassurance that everything was fine. Bad thoughts were gone. I thought only about how to quickly return home, return to her. Upon arrival from a business trip, there were warm hugs and kisses. It was very nice to plunge into the homey atmosphere with your loved one again. After that, we vigorously celebrated my arrival together with friends. They had fun, joked, everything as before. That evening, Lena again behaved strangely as if she wanted to tell something but did not dare. The conversation with her each time ended with questions about my business trip as if she was trying to avoid awkward silence. At that time, I didn't much betray her behavior, and I was constantly distracted by Nastya. Then we lived as before in love and happy. Once getting ready for work, I involuntarily drew attention to Nastya's phone. A message arrived and the screen lit up. The message was from some Maxim. "How are you?" I jokingly told Nastya that some Maxim was interested in her affairs early in the morning. In a hurry. I didn't even think about it. Nastya casually replied that this was her employee. At work, I remembered this message and thoughts already began. What kind of employee writes in the morning? With each passing hour, there were more questions and four in my head, so I was looking forward to the end of the working day. At home, I decided to ask carefully because I understood that I myself could not invent too much. At first, Nastya pretended not to understand, and then she remembered this message. She told me that this was her former employee. He left for another job just when I was on a business trip. She reminded me of her state when I left and that he comforted her at work in those days before leaving. And now I just decided to ask if everything is in order. I began to talk more nervously about what kind of caring employee he was whom I had not even heard of before. But here he supported her and now is even more interested. Nastya tried to calm me down so that she wouldn't wind up anything, but in the end, we had a fight anyway. The next morning, I felt guilty and decided to apologize, got up early, ran for flowers, managed to make breakfast. In the end, we matched up. At the same time, we agreed not to raise this topic anymore since she didn't have anything like that with him, and I have nothing to worry about. Despite the agreement, this situation did not give me rest. He tried to calm himself, told himself that he needed to trust her. But something kept bothering me. I kept putting puzzles in my head and still could not understand why I had never heard of him. I only found out when I saw the message. Maybe she understood that I could react like that and didn't say anything on purpose so as not to excite my imagination. And yet consciousness told me that there was something else. A few days later, we met again with friends. They rented a country house for the weekend, decided to unwind. The house was far from the city. There were no shops nearby. So we took alcohol and food with us in reserve. On the first evening, a lot of alcohol was drunk. I went out for a smoke. Lena came out with me. She asked me why she was so thoughtful all evening. I told her everything. Asked Nastya for this employee if she knew him. Lena did not answer at first. She just looked at me. Then we continued talking. And then I heard something that left me speechless. Maxim really was an employee of my Nastya. They communicated well with Nastya, but according to Lena, she herself did not suspect what kind of communication this was. Lena remembered when Nastya was not herself. Number one understood what was going on except for Lena. After I left, this guy didn't just comfort her. In Lena's conversation, I noticed that she was driving towards something very bad. After the party at our house, Lena ran to us in the morning as she forgot her glasses yesterday. Before that, she called Nastya, but she did not answer. This was before my business trip. On that day I left early for work. Lena had a duplicate of our keys to the apartment. Somehow we left the keys to her and asked her to water the flowers when Nastya and I left to rest. Not getting through to Nastya. She decided to drop by herself since Nastya said in the evening that she was going on business in the morning. When I entered the apartment, I heard moans. I went into the room and saw this Maxim and Nastya right on our bed. I did not believe what I was hearing. Nastya took Lena out and threatened not to tell me anything. Otherwise, she would ruin her whole life. I couldn't believe it was about my beloved. It's like a completely different person that I don't know. Then everything was even worse. Lena told me everything since she herself could no longer keep everything a secret from me. The conversation between Nastya and Lena was raised on this topic more than once. As a result, Maxim was going to leave with Nastya for another country. He had to pick her up. Nastya was supposed to tell me everything herself, but she continued to lie to me. This betrayal continued almost from our settlement in a new apartment. My mind was cut by the picture where it happened on our bed where we lay with her in the evenings and dreamed about our future. Then something went wrong with this Maxim. It was the same period when I was on a business trip not knowing what was waiting for me at home. As a result, this guy just left her and went abroad himself. And Nastier decided to forget about all this as if nothing had happened. Telling all this to me, Lena constantly made excuses and asked to forgive her. I wanted to tell earlier, but I could no longer even utter a word. I did not understand what to believe, what was happening. Everything rang in my head. I no longer heard Lena. He turned around and approached Nastia with glassy eyes. She turned around, saw her friend in tears and looked at me. Her gaze changed dramatically, became heavy and cold as if a completely different person was looking at me. Then she began to freak out, screaming to ask what Lena had said to me. I just asked if she cheated on me. As a result, Nastier did not answer, but simply silently melted and watched. I silently left that party before my friends had time to reach what had happened. He quickly grabbed his jacket and ran outside. I was walking on the move trying to call a taxi, still not understanding what was happening. This bundle of confused feelings, a sense of betrayal, hatred clouded my mind. After all, everything was so good. There was confidence in the future with her, but then everything changed. Dramatically, I never thought that this would happen to me. On the way home, I went to the store for alcohol. In the store I received an SMS from her, "I'm sorry." This message made it even worse. Arriving home, I sat with a bottle for a while and passed out. The morning woke me up with a heavy hangover. For the first few seconds, it seemed that everything I heard yesterday was a dream. But the realization nevertheless came, and I became very disgusting. In anger and despair, I hastily packed her things. Then he heard a knock on the door. Nastia came. She stood in tears and asked for forgiveness. Which she proved, but this only made it worse. I could no longer look at her and hear her voice. I sent her and slammed the door. My whole ideal world was filled with betrayal, and I did not know how to continue to live. Things Nastier handed over to Lena later. Over time, I calmed down. I did not see Lena and Nastier anymore. The realization came that it was even better because he could live in a life for a long time. Update. My ex-wife went abroad to live with her lover after all. I don't know how happy she was there, but I don't think it was sweet. I met my classmate with whom we once had a romantic relationship. We've been together for 5 years now. We have a son that I love very much. We both value loyalty and trust in each other. My ex's life didn't work out. Her lover kicked her out pregnant and she went back in. She now lives with her parents who are raising her child. She is trying to start a new relationship, but so far without success. Dear listeners, please like and subscribe to our channel. It stimulates me to release new videos for you.